All righty, we're going to go ahead and get started, y'all. Thanks so much to everyone who has joined us today on this call. We're very excited to have Janice speaking today. Janice began her journey with a dream. She created a business that is at the forefront of diversity and technology, and she recently hit a milestone by raising over $1 million in venture capital funding. Ms. Omedeki is the founder and CEO of the Mentor Method, an organization that uses a proprietary algorithm to match corporate mentors and mentees. It's brilliant. So I'm going to turn this over to Dean Thompson.
Thank you, Ms. Espinor. And Janice, thank you again for agreeing to do this for us.
My pleasure.
I am just amazed by you, and we are just happy to have you here. I think everyone that's here would agree that we are fortunate to be able to invite such a speaker to an event like this. Ms. Espinor talked a little bit about Janice's accomplishments, but just a little bit more to brag on her. Her company has been featured in the Washington Business Journal, the Entrepreneurship magazine. She's a 50 on Fire winner for both Austin and DC NO, and a 2017 Startup Growing Global Exhibition selection. Black Enterprise magazine recognized Janice as one of DC's top 5 Black women in tech. And she was the subject matter expert at the 2016 White House Summit on building the tech workforce of tomorrow. Janice is certified in entrepreneurship from MIT. She built the mentorship program from scratch as a manager at PwC. And she is a PMP certified. She's PMP certified, project management certified with over 10 years experience in corporate America. So I don't know if we lucked out. Let's just say we lucked out by having Janice here. You hear from the things I've said, we are speaking with someone who has the credentials. Janice, I would say HT, we're looking at building out our mentorship program, and I know you have asked to be a part of that. And after this meeting, I am going to reach out to you further so that we can see how you can help us. But without any further ado, Dr. McFarland, you have the pleasure of the moderator for today's event.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Thank you, Janice, for being here again. We met almost a year ago, and it was a pleasure at that time, and it's a pleasure again to have you here. Thank you very much. We really learned a lot from you last time, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna learn even more today. And I want to start the conversation by asking you, I'm very curious about many things about you, but I have to start with the first question. How do you start in this world of tech entrepreneurship? Are you an engineer?
No, graphic designer, actually. That was my background.
A graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the world of tech entrepreneur. How is that? Did that happen?
Well,
and when?
Being a graphic designer for my entire corporate career definitely taught me a lot of transferable skills into entrepreneurship, right? You're solving a problem on a daily basis for a client through your designs. You have to understand the business case for everything and be able to justify, negotiate on your own behalf or on behalf of the concepts that you're creating. So I'm very comfortable in that environment and definitely transferable as it relates to entrepreneurship. In terms of my journey, started off as a graphic designer, graduated in 2009 when the economy was quite in a very interesting spot, is what I'd say for those of you that remember. I'm from the DC metro area originally, so went back to the DMV, worked in defense contracting, my first several jobs, and the bulk of my career, actually, like 75% of my career was in defense contracting. And every time I signed up for a corporate mentorship program, I was just matched to the only other woman or Black person that was available at the time. And that was the basis of creating those matches. It wasn't about being a top performer. It wasn't about, this person can really help you get promoted or advance in the skill set or enter into a new industry. It was really just demographic pattern-based matching that, as we know, doesn't actually work when it comes to building meaningful relationships. And I just couldn't understand throughout that entire, bulk of my career, why mentorship, being one of the most important relationships that you have, was still going back to demographics versus chemistry, which is one of the most important pieces you need when you think about your friends that, become lifelong friends, or your coworkers that turn into friends. There is that level of chemistry that you need in order to want to continue talking to that person. So when I became a manager at PwC, it was a virtual team from 2014 to 2018. My team wanted a mentorship program. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity to try to, change some of the issues that I had seen in my own corporate mentorship experience. Looked online for tech solutions and realized very quickly that a lot of the incumbents in the space were just propagating the same issues. So I ended up just rolling up my sleeves and building the first prototype of the mentor method at that company, and then just couldn't stop thinking about it. Night, day, weekends, could not stop thinking about it, realized that there was something there. I was already certified in entrepreneurship from MIT and strategic management from Harvard. So used my teachings from getting that foundational entrepreneurial understanding that I thought was going to be used to make me a better graphic designer, and it did, but it also helped me build the foundation of the mentor method and getting our first MVP off the ground.
So the idea of the product that you have today, the center of your own company, started when you were an employee working
Correct.
for PwC.
Yeah.
What was in your mind? What made you decide to go into this world of entrepreneurship and leave the corporate world? How to take this step into this world?
So I got into the Mass Challenge Accelerator here in Austin, one of the top 20 accelerator programs in the country. And it became very clear that I could either take this opportunity on full time or would have to say no and slow down the progress at company. And when you have an opportunity to get into a program like Mass Challenge, I couldn't say no. I was absolutely going to go for it. So that's how it came together.
Nice. So can you explain a little bit what is an accelerator program? What is that?
Sure.
How can that type of program help a person like you, like me, like anyone here to start a business or to run your own business?
Yeah, so accelerator programs are really helpful because oftentimes they don't take a large portion of equity, if they take equity at all. So for example, Mass Challenge doesn't take any equity, and they provide non-dilutive funding, meaning they don't have equity stake in your company. Same thing with Google for Startups Founders Academy. I did that for 6 months this year. Amazing program. They ended up funding us $100,000 in non-dilutive funding after that time frame. And it was just such a gift, right? Really grateful for their investment. And on top of that, you get to learn a lot of business fundamentals. As an entrepreneur, you have to get comfortable with not knowing everything. You might be used to being one of the smartest people in the room, but at the end of the day, there's a lot that you don't know. And there are mentors and your peers and other people that have strengths where you have gaps. And this is a perfect opportunity to learn from those mentors, instructors, and your peers to continue scaling your business. So I used a lot of accelerators, especially in the idea stage. This is my first business. So really wanted to make sure that I understood, on top of my foundational learning, actually putting what I learned into practice and implementing what I learned. So did one called Seed Spot. Humble Ventures is another one that I participated in at the idea stage. Mass Challenge was really the one that set us up for success. We ended up placing gold, which was a huge accomplishment in their inaugural class, and then got into Capital Factory's Accelerator, got $100,000 in funding through their Women in Tech Challenge in 2018 from that. And it's just been a great ramp and stepping stone to continue building the business.
Wow, that's very interesting. And do you think that is for everyone, or what is it that you need in order to get involved into this type of program and then raise money to start your business? What is it that you need to do that?
Well, I tell everybody bootstrap for as long as humanly possible. I leverage my privilege of having been a manager at PwC for 4 years before quitting my very comfortable full-time job, and that afforded me the ability to think strategically about fundraising versus having an idea and then giving away significant amounts of equity because we were so early. And that's helped, right? We just raised our 1.6 recently this year. So it gave us a lot of opportunity to really be strategic about who we let into the round. And, you know, if we raise again in the future, who we let into subsequent rounds.
How do you raise that amount of money if are you selling millions of dollars today, or how do you raise money without selling or with little sales, or probably with no profit? I don't know your financial statement, and that's a confidential information, but it's a question that everybody has. Yeah. I do have. How you raise this amount of money if you're not selling anything yet?
Well, as a Black business owner, right, I had to have proof of concept and paying customers. So we didn't go in with just an idea and a PDF. I know that works for some founders and it's great for them, but I knew early on that that was not going to be the case for an HR tech solution from a first-time founder that just so happens to be a Black woman. So for me, I focused on getting customers, building our advisory board and resources around me and the business so that when it was time for us to raise capital, as we did over a 6-month period, we were able to do so with less barriers to entry to do that. So for us, we had revenue already. We had team members identified. We had our hiring plan in place. It was just a matter of getting the capital to actually scale at that point.
In your pitch, when you do your presentation to raise this amount of money,
sure,
what is the secret? What is it that you sell? I know it's the mentor method, a method that you developed while you were working for this company and you had it in your mind, but you just say, I have this idea and it's a beautiful idea, or what is it that you say? What is the secret to raise this amount of money?
You know, Hector, if I knew the secret, I would be a billionaire like Jeff Bezos, right? So I don't know.
But raising $1 million is not raising $1,000. I mean,
no, it's a big accomplishment, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. So what I would say is make sure that you understand your business case very, very clearly. Know what problems you're solving and how your solution is different from your competitors and how you will be the one to solve more of your customers' problems than anyone else in the market, and be able to tie it back to data from third-party research, right? And then also data from your solutions. If you're building a tech company, definitely be able to start including data and metrics that you're recording to show that your solution is working. So for example, being able to say that 40% of our users in the software are labeled high activity users because they're in for 45 minutes or longer, minimum like 4 or 5 times a week, is a big accomplishment for us. And the fact that less than 20% are low activity users across the board is a big milestone, especially with an enterprise SaaS tool. But when it comes to investing, you have to know as many details as possible about your business. Be honest, and be open about how that fundraising will help you. So for example, if an investor says, well, are you tracking this data? A response that I had, if we weren't, was, we're not, but that's part of our product roadmap. And with this raise, we'll be able to further expand on our technology to be able to capture that data. And here are other pieces of data that with this expansion and this round of funding, we'll be capturing. This will increase our average contract value to X. and therefore we'll be able to close, you know, these number of companies bringing in this amount of revenue, therefore we can hire these additional team members. It all has to go back to making sure that your investors get their returns and that your customers will be happy and want to continue working with you.
So investors look at numbers only, or do
No.
they look at your skills, your passion, or it's just numbers? Because
I
you
mean,
were talking
passion
about
is,
return on investment. Obviously, they're giving you $1 million. They want the money back and with some interest, right? With some gains. But
right.
what else do they look at when you make a presentation? Why to invest? Yeah, you're demonstrating with data. You're demonstrating the return on investment. What else is that? Is that it, or they're
No,
looking
but
at
that
something else?
builds a strong story for sure. I mean, we have that personal connection, right? So for me, that passion comes from a very deep and strong and personal origin story that motivates me to get up every day. So I'll share portions of that depending on the investor and where we are in, you know, the getting to know you process. I share about that. The team is also very important, who you have around you and who's responsible for, you know, building your solution, selling it, marketing it, all the pieces, right? You need to have a strong team and advisors around you as well. So I would say solution that's actually solving a problem, right? Something that people would want to pay for, having a team around you to help get that into the hands of those that want to pay for it, and then also having a personal connection to what you're doing, because you know you have a lot of highs, you have a lot of lows, and you need to be able to navigate that. And you know, feeling connected to the company definitely helps you get up on those tougher than usual days.
That's very interesting what you're mentioning, that you share your personal story. You have to be able to present a story behind your business model, behind
Yeah.
your idea. So let me ask you this, because I was watching some interviews with some other tech entrepreneurs like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and you know the big guys in the tech industry, and there is one thing in common that they have, or they say that every tech entrepreneur should have, and I want to know your opinion too, and that is passion. So when you were working for PwC, you start thinking about this problem, or were you passionate? Would you consider yourself passionate about this product? I know obviously everybody will love the company, but you need to be passionate to overcome all the lows that you have in your journey, for example. So what is your opinion on those regards? What is your passion? What is this piece of the story that you share with investors, your personal story?
Sure. So the personal story, I'm first generation American.
Mm.
And I, you know, from an early age, I saw my dad go from working multiple jobs with no upward mobility to getting a security clearance and working in IT at the Pentagon, all through mentorship and advocacy from people that didn't know him but took a chance, right? So that completely changed my life as a byproduct of technology and mentorship. And I believe that, you know, it impacts not just the individual, but that person's family, their communities. It opens up their aperture for what they think is realistic and possible. Fast forwarding 2018, in January 2018, my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And, you know, it overlapped with the Mass Challenge Accelerator, which was April through August. So I was going back and forth between here and DC to make sure that I was there for chemo appointments. You know, she unfortunately passed away August 2018, but you know, our last conversation before she lost the ability to speak, she was saying that she was really proud of me and that she would be watching and that she'd be amplifying, you know, the blessings on the end user, the people that we were matching to mentors from heaven, because this is something that she wished she had in her career, you know, somebody that could just advocate for her, be her champion, teach her the skills she needed for promotions and advancement. So, you know, that was our conversation. Next day, she passed away. So for me,
Sorry.
oh, thank you. My purpose in life is very, very clear. And I think it makes it easier for me to fundraise. It makes it easier for me to build a team, have a vision for the direction of the company and a pathway to building a $100 million company, because that passion is also a very exciting and healthy way to channel the grief that I'm still battling. You know, like it's always with you, it just manifests in different ways. But you know, what better love story and tribute to my mom and the sacrifices she made immigrating to the US, not knowing anybody at the time, not even my dad, than to make this as successful a company and to be a positive representation of Congolese Americans in the US.
Mm. Well, I'm sorry to hear that about your mom, but I really admire what you just said. And I mean, I guess the journey is not easy as an entrepreneur, and you have to, you know, hold from someone that motivates you to continue in this journey. In this case, that conversation that you had with your mom and what you saw from your dad when he came to the US. I have this question because you mentioned this word purpose. You know your purpose in life. So do you think that to start a business as an entrepreneur, it's important to have a purpose first and then look for the money or wait for the profits to come? Or you should have profits as your main goal? What is the purpose in life?
I don't think it's binary, but one of your pieces of purpose should be to build a company that generates revenue. Otherwise, it's a very expensive and time-consuming hobby, right? So for me, I would say, you know, that purpose does drive me to build a successful business. And thankfully, you know, my purpose aligns with a lot of my strengths. I love solving problems. I do not like bullies. I do not like inequity. I was always that person that would stand up and protect other people. So, you know, in my background, being in tech as a graphic designer, web designer, goes a very long way in building prototypes and modeling and, you know, being able to test solutions that relate to the mentor method and then scale them. So for me, it took me a long time to figure out the inner why. I think it just comes with, you know, amazing therapists and having space to really think about it. But it took a while. You know, people asked me that when the mentor method was just an idea, like, why are you willing to, you know, get up at 4 a.m. and continue building this on top of your full-time job, or, you know, all of these pieces. And I didn't know. I just felt it from the core of my being that I wanted to do this. I wanted to try it. I asked my sister, my older sister, about it. She's the daring one, actually. She inspires me to take risks every day.
Is she older than you?
Older. Lives in New York, somewhere in Brooklyn. I'm not cool enough to know where, but she's somewhere in Brooklyn, doing great, traveling, doing just wonderful things. But I asked her when I first had the idea, like, hey, I'm thinking about making a mentor matching software. What do you think? And her response was, try it. Let the world tell you no. Like, the worst thing you can do is just say, okay, it didn't work, and then keep your comfortable job in management consulting. And that was exactly the message I needed to hear. And so I did that, you know, trusting that I had that safety net of the privilege of working in management consulting. But yeah, I think it took me up until 2018, late 2018, to really know what the purpose is. And it's something that I'm still processing, right? Like, the mom stuff is heavy. It's not something that I necessarily lead with in talking to investors, right? But it's something that I'm now getting very comfortable in, because the more that I discuss it, you know, the more I get responses from other people saying, oh my gosh, you know, I lost my mom when I was building my company, or I lost my dad, you know, 5 years ago, and it's been awful. How are you handling it? How are you managing? And it opens up some really beautiful and meaningful conversations. And, you know, when you read the bio, when you Google, you know, if you look at my LinkedIn and the accolades and things, I think sometimes people forget that there's still a living, breathing person behind those wins. And for every one win, there are at least 15 no's that came from that, right? So yeah, I don't know. I guess to answer your question, I don't think you need to have your purpose fully set, but trust your intuition. If something's really calling you to it, take the time to do the self-work and evaluate where that's coming from. And it'll become very clear in some way, shape, or form if you really do the work of trying to unpack all the baggage and stuff that motivated you to create it.
That's a very powerful story and very strong, and I really admire your journey in the decision of going into this not easy world of entrepreneurship. So let me go into, what is it that you sell? You rent the software. What is your business model? What is it that you offer to the market?
So we're enterprise. Companies purchase a license for their number of employees. So we charge based on the number of employees that a company wants to either have as mentors or mentees inside the company. From there, the company can configure the software as per their milestones and success criteria. They then invite their employees to participate in that mentorship program. Employees take a personality assessment. They indicate skills and industries of either experience or interest. From there, they can pick the best match for them, leverage our guided system focused on relationship nurturing and skills development, and then also data and reporting to let us know how the program's going and their relation to the overall experience at the company.
So at the end, what is the goal of doing this for the employee? What is it that they get at the end?
Advancing as many underrepresented professionals as humanly possible and making sure that women, LGBTQ+, people of color, Black and Brown, and military veterans are matched to the right mentors, not based on things they can't control, like the way in which they were born and the way in which they enter into the world, but really who they are as people, where they want to go in their career, and ensuring that underrepresented professionals are given that opportunity to really learn, grow at the company, get faster promotions, and get that right mentor. That's sort of our personal goal. But in terms of the problem we solve for our customers, it's helping them match their talent to the right people to build meaningful connections in a time where everyone feels burnt out, fragmented, and really looking for that new water cooler in terms of building those meaningful connections across their teams despite working from home.
That's very nice. I'm thinking about this question. What gives you more excitement to hear a positive feedback from one of these employees that was involved in your program, in your methodology, or the profits that you may make with your business? Because I mean, we're talking about the purpose. You're helping this sometimes not favored groups or communities in society, right? So you're helping them. I think I got chills when I heard, you know, your methodology, what you do for these people. I think is very important. But what is it that gives you more excitement? To see profits or to see sales growing, or receive this type of feedback that you're really helping these employees?
Well, the only way that we can get that feedback is by getting these companies as a customer. So I would say they go hand in hand versus one or the other. That's like picking your favorite child. I can't do that, right? You know, I'm a business owner. Revenue growth is very important to me. As I mentioned, otherwise this would be a very expensive and time-consuming hobby, right? So the fact that we're generating revenue and scaling is important to us. And because we're selling into large companies with thousands of employees, we're able to then get that positive feedback and change people's lives. And that's really important to me. And I think that's something that Dr. Thompson and I will discuss as well in terms of, you know, bringing mentorship to Huston-Tillotson as well, to build those meaningful connections and make sure that your students are getting advanced the same way that we're seeing success with, you know, seasoned professionals in their spaces.
Okay. Let me go back to your journey and the ups and downs. Have you had ups and downs or just ups? Because
many
what I'm
gaps.
hearing is only in your personal life, unfortunately, what happened to your mom is not
Yeah.
easy, but in the professional career, it's just ups all the time. You're raising money, you're having all these customers. It seems like you're having
We
just
are.
ups and ups.
Well, as I mentioned before, for every LinkedIn post sharing a win, there are at least 10 to 15, downers or no's or challenges that we've had to overcome to get to a place to get those wins, right? So, thinking about bootstrapping the mentor method, we were told no in the fundraising space for quite some time because HR tech was not a core thesis for a lot of these funds. And so I said, okay, we're going to continue bootstrapping. We're going to continue building the team, building up our, rubric of customers, et cetera. And that's kind of where we stayed until the shutdown, right? March 2020, we had that past performance and understanding of what it takes to build meaningful connections. And keep in mind, when I worked at PwC for 4 years, my team was entirely virtual. And this was 2014 to 2018. So long before any of this was taking place. So my understanding of what people that weren't used to working from home were going to face became the first piece of our marketing and getting in front of our customers and establishing that trust. But that takes time, right? When you're a smaller team, you have to prioritize where you can spend your time, which means that, sometimes you miss opportunities or your product just isn't in a place to secure that big customer and you have to let them go. And that's just a part of the process. But I am extremely, extremely grateful for every win that we get because of the amount of work that not just me, but my team puts in for us to get those. It's a lot of work. And, I don't remember who had a quote about overnight success taking years in the making before it appears that way, but it's 100% the case. It takes a lot of work. I personally don't do it for the accolades or the clout. We're grateful for them, but for us, it's really about building the best company possible and making sure that we're delivering this scalable and impactful solution that can really change the lives of, those working at the corporations we serve.
So you were saying at the beginning you were struggling to raise money. Then they didn't believe in it. So how do you finance? Because you said, well, we continue building the team and developing the product. That costs money. And if you were not raising money, how were you funding the project?
Pitch competitions.
Okay.
If you learn to pitch well, you can get like $1,000 to $5,000 sometimes. There was a wonderful woman. Her name is Dr. Charlene Brown, and she spoke in a similar fireside chat like this when the mentor method was just an idea at the time. And she talked about how she got over, I think, $186,000 in non-equity funding through pitch competitions and accelerator programs. And I thought that was amazing because that's huge. And
of course,
so, I was just there front row, taking notes on everything that she was saying. And we didn't raise, $186,000 in non-dilutive funding, but, that's why we relied on accelerator programs that would give us the opportunity to learn and grow in a safe environment, introduce us to potential advisors and mentors that I still speak to regularly to this day, 4 years later. And so accelerator programs are great, pitch competitions, business plan competitions, looking at grants. Hello, Alice. Has a lot of grants for woman-led businesses. So looking into those and applying for grants, that's a big one for sure. And then also just getting a handful of customers, right? Getting those first few in, explaining to them, you're our first customer. This is going to be a pilot. Yes, you'll be paying for the pilot, but we'll be working with you to build a more robust solution, et cetera, just to make sure that they understand the expectation was also a big part of it. And I lastly have to highlight again my privilege of having worked in management consulting, having a 6-figure salary for 4 years before taking on the mentor method full time was a huge help. That definitely supports when you have savings. My sister was also really wonderful and, lent me money when I relocated here for Mass Challenge. You have to pay your own way. So she lent me some money as well so that I could afford to, have a furnished sublet here and not pay for the relocation costs when I didn't know if I was going to stay here or not at that time. But yeah, those are the ways that I've been able to get it done, based on learning from other Black women entrepreneurs, especially in ways that you have to get scrappy and resourceful because we don't always get funding as soon as we need it.
So friends and family are important at the beginning, probably.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure. They're always important.
So the product that you have today, 2021, was the same product that you had in 2018 when you started, or is a constant development of the product?
I think it's still the same problem, but the solution has evolved over time.
The problem is the same, the solution has evolved. Okay. And so you invest part of the money that you raise in product development.
Of course.
Do you have a research and development team, let's say?
Yeah, Rochelle Aribio is a phenomenal head of product. And she thinks, to your point, about delivering value to the customer and also profitability of the mentor method. And it's just great. I love working with her. And so she leads our product and development team seamlessly. And then now I chime in with my ideas and we talk about product roadmap and everything else, but she's been great at driving our product function.
Great, great. So how long does it take from the idea that you had when you were working for PwC to develop the product and to get, because you mentioned 3 times now or more, it's important to get sales, to get customers.
Yeah.
So from the moment, and I agree with you 100%, but from the moment that you have the idea to develop the product, to get the first customer, how long does it take?
It varies, right? Because I think the big piece that I haven't mentioned in that is also having a strategy, right? How are you actually reaching these customers? How are you messaging the solution? How are you messaging that you're solving a problem for them? What is your approach? What makes you different? Taking the time to really sit back and strategize and brainstorm is the difference between being reactionary and being able to really think quickly on your feet while you're still moving at 1,000 miles an hour. But for us, we started off as a consumer solution, actually. Matching.
So how is that? So you were not targeting companies, you were targeting the end user, the employee directly.
Yep. Matching women to mentors outside of their place of employment.
And did you get some consumers or end consumers of your product?
We did. We actually got some money from it. Yeah, we ended up generating revenue, and I still talk to some of our early adopters, actually still follow them on Instagram, and we do, virtual coffees and everything. So I still keep up with them, and vice versa, which is great. But I pivoted just because it made more sense in terms of scaling the impact and scaling our path to scalability. But
so you change the strategy. So instead of going B2C, you're now going B2B. Now you're discussing and negotiating with companies. So that gives you more, allow you to escalate the business faster. Is that the reason?
In our case, yes, but for some people, that won't be the situation, right? For some people, consumer is 100% the way to go. I think you have to determine what makes the most sense for your company.
Okay. How do you convince the first company in the B2B industry, not the first end consumer, but your first customer in the business world, in the business market?
Positive referrals. Use your network. Use your network. Yeah. So the way that we got our first customer, one of the big 4 management consulting companies, I was an ambassador for the DC government at South by Southwest 2017. So they brought 27 of us to Austin in 2017 to be a positive representation of what the DC Metro. I'm going to turn on my ring light, by the way. I think it's getting a little dark from the sun setting. Okay, so they brought 27 of us to show examples across art, business, right, entrepreneurship, etc., for what DC has to offer. While I was there, you know, mingling, getting to know people, I met a gentleman who was a partner at said Big Four management consulting company. We had a conversation about what we were doing. He just so happened to be a Black man, was talking about his experiences in management consulting being non-equitable, which I understood as well, that being my background too. And we ended up reconnecting back in DC because he was also in town from DC for South by Southwest. Gave him a demo, walked him through what we were doing, and it turned out that he was really good friends with the head of talent management for one of their government practice. So he put in a good word for me. I met with the head of talent management for their government practice, had a good conversation. He also just so happened to be a Black man in a space that tends to be more overrepresented by non-Black and brown professionals. And he loved it, right? Loved the concept, wanted to believe in us, and he did. And then we just kept going from there.
That's very interesting. So networking is very important.
It's huge. It's huge. I'm still networking all the time. I'm going to a networking event after this.
Oh, good, good.
It never stops, but it's important. It's important work to do. And if you do it in a way that feels authentic to you and you're actually building meaningful connections with people, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It turns into like, oh, great, I can't wait to catch up with this group of people. I haven't seen them in about a month or something like that.
That's interesting. Let me ask you this. I'm going to go back a little bit to the raising money part. Being a Black woman, because you mentioned just right now, you said, I met this man and it happened that he was a Black man and helped me. Do you think being a Black woman, being Black woman, that is harder to raise money? For example?
Yes, I mean, the stats are there. Black women get, I think, 0.06% of all venture funding out of the trillions of dollars that are available. So it's not just my experience. The data shows that it's hard. It's hard as hell to raise as a Black woman. It's challenging. It is, it's tough, for sure.
But do you think it's a stopper from an investor to invest in a company just because you are from this minority group, let's say? Is because of that, or they don't care? Because at the end, probably some people here connected in this conversation that we're having may be interested in starting a business and raising funds. So what should be the expectations on those regards? It's going to be harder, or it's just if you present a good business plan with a good idea of how to return the investment, etc., that will help you to raise money and is not influenced by, your demographic, your profile.
No, it's 100% influenced by it. I mean, like I said, that stat is there and it's prevalent for a reason, right? I know so many Black woman-led businesses and Black woman founders that have the revenue, have the team, have the vision, and it's still a challenge for them to raise. And much like, the fact that women get paid less than men, and you can see, the racial divide in terms of the pay, the wage gap, it's there, right? It's systemic. Those that have access to investing tend to come from higher income homes and different neighborhoods, and oftentimes they're born with the natural understanding of networking, corporate structures, and investing, whereas, the majority of underrepresented professionals and people getting into this space do not. So I don't know the stats on the average friends and family round for, say, white founders compared to non-white founders, but it's a big gap for sure. So, when your friends and family round is only, $500 and someone else's friends and family round is 2 million, you're already running the race at a significant disadvantage.
Yes.
So
agreed.
yeah, no, it's definitely harder. It's just, I don't think that we will see enough change in my lifetime, but I'm hoping that the work that I'm doing and the work that Arlen Hamilton, Rihanna Lynn, and some of the other incredible people are doing will help move the needle so that the next generation, our kids, and the HT graduates and everybody are able to really see the benefits of more equitable fundraising.
Agree. And yeah, I agree. But yes, I'm pretty sure the work that you're doing is going to help the community. I really believe that.
Thank you.
Let me move forward to your journey. Have you thought about quitting being an entrepreneur?
No,
Never.
no.
But don't you have downs or moments when you think, why I'm doing this? It's so complex. It's so a lot of work. No.
It's hard work, but I love this work. You have to keep in mind, okay? So I work hard naturally, right? So the energy that I'm putting into the mentor method would be energy that I would put into an employer if I was corporate. And would I rather put that energy into something that I actually can control and move forward and build the team with the same values and change lives? Or would I rather put that into padding the pockets of partners and managing directors that I'll never get to meet, right? There's a trade-off there. It's the same energy, but this is where my passion lies, and I'm energized by it, and I'm excited. And honestly, Hector, like, I was built for this. This is 100% where I'm supposed to be. So even on those low days, I remember the things that I do on a low day. Let's go through that.
Okay.
I take a minute. I'm really big into meditation, really big into mental health. So a lot of therapy, a lot of
Okay.
leadership coaching, but I take a second. I try to identify what I'm feeling. Am I anxious? Am I angry? Did I just not sleep well? Like, what is it? And I remind myself that if it's something like, okay, so for example, today, I was not in a good mood for like half the day. I'm going to be honest. This morning, I was like, I should not be talking to the team. I just wasn't getting it together. So I wasn't in a good mood. And I took like 10 minutes for myself and remembered that the schedule I have now is the schedule that Janice 4 years ago would have killed to have. The people that are taking our calls, the meetings that we're having, the team meetings that we're having, I would have killed for this. And there are thousands of other founders that would kill for, the opportunities that we're getting as well. So I can't take it in vain, and I can't take it for granted, because not everything is guaranteed and it could go away like that, right? Think about the number of businesses that shut down after the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. So I generally remind myself of that. Also, somebody was actually asking me this last night at an event, and I was telling them that honestly, some days I'm like, I cannot wait to get to a point where the business is so big, where this $100 million plus business, and I can just take a Friday afternoon on my lemon tree farm with my pet llamas and just relax. Like, for me, that's like, thank you, Tina. I appreciate that support, Tina. Tina said, keep moving in the chat. I appreciate you, Tina. But, for me, it's thinking about the long-term goal, which for me is that, right? I want to be able to build generational wealth for my family, have a, significant plot of land, be able to do all of these things, and reminding myself that every day we're moving the needle. Every day we're solving new challenges, but these are challenges that need to be solved, and that we're getting closer to that goal one day. And it kind of snaps back into it. But that took years. I make it sound like I just woke up one day and was like this breezy, collected person. No,
Yeah.
This took a lot of time, and this is something that I've been working on. I'm 34, and I think I've been working on this for at least 10 years in therapy and otherwise, just trying to figure out, what works best for me. And I just got the hang of it maybe 2-3 years ago.
what are the things that bring you down or put you in a bad mood? Like what happened today, for example, what are those things that can bring down an entrepreneur like you?
Yeah, Hector, why can't I just be happy?
No, of course,
I'm
but
kidding.
there are
I'm
some
kidding.
things. I mean, I understand that many things happen during the day, during the week, with customers
Yeah.
complaining, but there are sometimes, oh, that happened to me sometimes, is, oh, this is so hard. And
For
I
me,
struggle with some things more than with others. So what are those things that bring you down, or, that probably make you think twice what you're doing?
well, I never think twice about what we're doing. I honestly do not. I know that this is 100% where I'm supposed to be. We're in the right direction. We have the best team, best investors, best advisors in the game, and we're going to reach where
The
I
goal.
know we're headed. So I feel very confident about that. But that being said, this journey is a bear, right? It's tough. I think the pieces that really wear me down are moments of unnecessary disrespect.
Aha.
So,
Okay.
and, somebody that I don't know just making a comment out of left field, right? Or disparaging, or just, yeah, disrespect that there's no need to do that, right? We're all going through something. We're not out of this pandemic yet. We're all still adjusting and trying to get through it. So the idea that somebody has the audacity to just come in and be disrespectful to another human, like I said, I don't like bullies. So for me, it always triggers that part of me that gets into like self-advocacy and like, this is not going to happen. But you also are still a business owner. You can't burn a lot of bridges, and you have to maintain a certain level of decorum, because I know that if I pop off, the next Black woman that this person meets, given their level of ignorance and lack of education and understanding how to speak to other humans, will think, oh gosh, okay, Janice tore me a new one last time. I didn't actually learn anything from that, but now I'm going to be terrified of approaching, this next person. There's so much at play when you're in those dynamics that it can be really draining on me, especially when you end up getting into a situation where you're just doing free DEI consulting. That's always kind of challenging for me.
Interesting. Well, that's good that you're not doubting about what you're doing, because that's very important. You're very secure of what you want. You have a
Yeah.
clear dream of what you want. You're visualizing what you want at the end. Are you planning to sell your company one day? You have any exit strategy, or you want this company to be yours forever and then you just retire and receive profits every year? Or how do you see yourself in those regards?
As my leadership coach, Tim Porthouse, says, build the first pyramid first. So right now we're just focused on building the best company possible, continuing to generate those use cases, build our path to, these barriers to success, and we'll see. We will see what happens. But I think keeping an open mind in terms of the path of growth has been a gift for me, and I plan on maintaining that until we get to a place where we have to make a decision.
Good answer. I like that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your company, your product. I want to ask you, because a lot of people, especially in technology, we talk about innovation. We love to talk about innovation. So how important is innovation in a company like yours? I know that you have, a product software that you're developing, but and you mentioned that you're constantly developing the solution. The need is the same, but you're in constant evolution of the solution. But innovation in terms of intellectual property, intellectual patents, for example, do you think that innovation can give you a differentiator that can help you sustain the business model for longer? Do you invest in innovation as a company?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We love when people find things to fix in the solution, and we love when our team, has ideas and is thinking about, multiple pathways. I heard a great quote today when I did a speaking engagement earlier today with a panel, and somebody said, if you're standing still, you're falling behind. when it comes to innovation in technology. And I agree with that completely. Even if it's something small, like a new feature, you have to keep thinking about what's next, right? What got you here will not get you there. And so for us, it's about the product roadmap. It's thinking about what's next in the market and just continuing to evolve from there.
If you are a graphic designer, how do you find the person that helped you to develop the product? That's one question.
Yeah.
The other, how many people work in your company today? How you engage the people, how you keep,
Yeah.
how you practice your leadership, how you keep the people in your team engaged, motivated.
Mm. Well, okay, so remind me of that second question. But as a graphic designer, especially in defense contracting, you're the catch-all. So I know videography, I know web design, I know product, because as a graphic designer, you need to know all of them. And I invested in learning at least the fundamentals to get me up and running long before I even had the idea for the mentor method. I believed in being a well-rounded professional in the industry in which I was working, which was graphic design, which meant that I needed to know videography. I needed to understand product. I needed to understand how to build a prototype and code and all of those pieces. So I already knew how to do that. It was more just using what I had learned and had been paying to learn into the mentor method, which was great. I have the best team in the market. I really do. I'm so grateful for everybody. The way that we stay connected, everyone has a personal motivation and stake in the company. Whether it's being felt as though you're marginalized for being the one working mom on a team, or, similar to me with being, a Black person in corporate America, knowing what it feels like to be excluded just based on demographics. Everyone has a personal connection to the bigger why and the mission of the mentor method. And that's something that you can't recruit for. It just naturally gravitates towards you. We also have a strong values alignment. Our values are trust, honesty, communication, and efficiency. Those are my personal values. And so I made them the values of the company, and everybody has those, which is great. And that's part of the interview process. But in terms of, I like to treat it not as incentivizing, but really showing gratitude for the team that we have, right? Because for the long time, it was just me. Then it was me and Joseph Kopster, my chief growth officer. And now we have 13 people over the last
13.
5 months.
Okay.
Mhm.
For the last what? Sorry, how many
5
months?
5 months.
Oh, 5 months.
5 months we've been building this team. So we just hired our last 2 people in October.
Wow. So you were working by yourself the first year, the first part of your journey, of your venture?
The first
Just
several
you
years,
developed the code for your platform, for your software. You
Worked
sold it
worked with 1099s, right?
with
So
1099s. Okay.
yeah, a
Gotcha.
great site called Upwork. But in terms of actually being a core full-time team member, yeah, it was just me for years. But in terms of giving back and making sure that the team, feels that investment and the gratitude we have for them, the first Friday of every month, our offices are closed. We call it First Fridays, and those are mental health days.
Ah, okay.
Having reported to multiple multi-star generals throughout my career, my expectations on professionalism are quite high, and I know that. And we're moving very quickly. There's a very unique opportunity for the business, and so we have a mental health day the first Friday of every month. We have a $100 a month therapy stipend that all full-time employees have access to. So if they're going to therapy, they just let accounting know, and they get that $100 reimbursement. What else do we do? We try to do like team gatherings. So every Friday, at 3:00 every Friday, we do a weekly wrap up, which is 30 minutes. And everybody goes around and they share a highlight from work, a highlight from their personal life that week, and something they're excited to do over the weekend. And it's just a nice way to, get everybody together, and then sort of indicating the end of the week and giving people, an early Friday off if they can swing it. So I think those are the big parts of it for us. And then checking in with the team. I try to do one-on-ones as often as possible. I do it with my direct reports. So head of sales, marketing, product, chief growth officer, Joseph, and then making sure that that's the culture that we're instilling in everybody, even those that no longer, those that don't report to me because we have our vertical heads.
Do they work remotely or do they go to an office? Okay,
We're all
remotely.
remote. I think 2 people prefer working in an office, so we have co-working space for them in DC and San Antonio, but otherwise we're remote. Most of us are here in Austin, so we'll get together and connect and discuss when we need to, but otherwise it's Zoom, just like this.
And is that difficult to manage
No.
your team that way?
No,
so they're responsible, they deliver what they have to deliver on time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great. So I want to invite the people on Zoom that is connected. If you guys have any question for Janice, just write it down in the chat box and we'll read it and she will answer. So feel free to ask whatever question you may have, Dr. Thompson. You can ask too. I know that you have many questions, but if not, let me continue the conversation because it's very interesting. I'm learning a lot. If you didn't have the intellectual property that you have today in your platform, do you think that you can compete in the market that you compete in today?
I have no idea. I mean, grateful that we have it. So I can't answer that question.
So you have many, is it crowded? I mean, do you have many competitors in this field or no?
It's becoming crowded for sure. People in reaction to the shutdown, right? And kind of experiencing that. But I think for us, it's maintaining our competitive advantage and continuing to move forward. And it's part of the process, right? If you don't have competitors, then your market probably isn't as big and the problem you're solving probably isn't that great and won't generate as much revenue, right? So it's good for us to have competitors in the space. Do I like competitors? Absolutely not. As kind as I am, I'm quietly competitive. So I don't like it, but it's part of the process.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking about if you think that not having an intellectual property patent or something unique about your platform will allow you to penetrate the market. In my case, if I don't have the patents that I have in my product, probably I wouldn't be getting the customers that I'm getting because I will be another me too or the same solution. So I have to have a differentiator. So that's why I was asking that question. But I guess, so because you mentioned at what point, you mentioned something about value. You have to deliver value to the customer. So what is the value that they see in your product?
Well, since this is recorded,
Excuse me?
Since this is recorded, not going to give all of it away, right?
No, not about intellectual property. I'm talking about what is it that they gain? What is the value that they perceive? Why they hire you? Why they like your product?
I mean, simply put, we make it easier for teams that are responsible for building equitable workforces to do their jobs in a way that helps them save time and money and actually deliver impact at scale.
Save time and money. That's very interesting. And I was expecting that answer because at the end, in the business market, they need to justify the investment in this case in your technology. They need to have an ROI, right? A return on investment, in this case in your technology. So you need to prove that you're saving time and money to them with your platform. So I think
anyone in the enterprise SaaS space, right? If you're selling to an enterprise customer, that's what they care about most. So yeah, that's a big part of it. I see Dr. Thompson has a question as well.
Okay. Dr. Thompson.
Yes, he says, can your business model be used in higher education with students being the mentees? Yes, and I look forward to discussing that with you in the next couple of weeks, Dr. Thompson.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, let's definitely discuss.
So how do you sell your product? What is your sales process? Do you sell online? Or you go physically to your customer's facility and you make presentations, you follow the sales process in person, or this, since it's a SaaS, a software as a service, you do everything online? How do you do the sales process?
All online. I mean, we're not traveling yet. It's not 100% safe to do so. So similar to anybody else that's growing a business right now, you use the means that you have, which is typically Zoom, phone call, and otherwise.
What is in the sales process, the main, the reason I'm asking you this is because I've been consulting other SaaS companies and they're having issues in converting prospecting to customers. So how long is the sales process more or less for this type of product that you
Yeah,
sell?
with enterprise SaaS, expect, a 6 to 9 month sales cycle.
6 to 9 months sales cycle.
Yeah, pretty standard, right? So, I mean, with some deals, it's a month, other ones, it's 9 months, and it's just par for the course with enterprise SaaS, especially because you're working with larger companies that have robust procurement systems and requirements and everything else. And while we pass all of them, you just have to work with their process.
Are you planning to expand internationally?
Sure. Yeah.
How
We
do
are
you
GDPR compliant, so we don't see why not.
and the reason I'm asking you this, and again, I'm not asking about intellectual property or anything like that, is that if you have certain uniqueness in certain country, how you protect that uniqueness in another country? In other words, how you protect your intellectual property in another country?
Mhm. I mean, we're just scaling, right? Our customers are global. They have multiple offices. And so we scale as they want to scale with us.
Okay. I think there's what is Dr. Thompson, one of the challenges of mentorship program is unrealistic expectation. Have you experienced this issue with your company? And if so, how have you overcome this challenge?
Yeah, early on, I think our first users, somebody was upset that they didn't get an $80,000 promotion through the help of their mentor. And I asked them, are there others in your industry and at your career level that are getting $80,000 promotions as a junior consultant? And their response was no, but, and I said, okay, then let's think about level setting these expectations, because your mentor isn't a fairy godparent. There's somebody that will help you become the best possible version of you. But that $80,000 might happen over, a period of time and not instantly in a 4-month engagement, let's say. So what we do now, we have resources for expectation management and otherwise to support that, but companies are also very, very clear on those expectations, which makes our job a lot easier.
Interesting. So let's start, wrapping up on everything that we have said or that you have said. And in terms of skills, so what is it that you need to be a successful entrepreneur? You mentioned, obviously, you have to have a passion, you need to work hard, but in terms of skills, you studied at Harvard, MIT, you got involved in different accelerator programs. What are the skills that our students need to develop if they want to be an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur? What are those skills?
Yeah.
Are those skills hard skills or soft skills or both?
Both, depending on the company, right? You need to make sure that you understand the space that you're in. So if you're starting, I don't know, for example, I'm just using this off the top of my head because I keep these snacks with me everywhere, right? Siete, a vegan, gluten-free snack company. If you're creating something that's vegan and gluten-free, you need to understand what it takes from a manufacturing perspective for it to qualify as vegan and gluten-free. right? You're going to have to understand the manufacturing. You're going to have to understand the ingredients that you're using, etc., so that when you're talking to customers, you know that you're actually taking care of them. And the same logic applies for an enterprise technology solution or CPG, or, you know, even coming out with the next Angry Birds viral game. You need to understand that. I would also say, so focus on getting skills that will make you indispensable within the industry that you're entering. From a soft skills space, resilience is really important. As I mentioned, those ups feel so good, but you get a lot of downs in that process. So making sure that you understand what you're signing up for, making sure you're locked in here too. Because honestly, it's a game. It's a head game every day. And once you're locked in mentally and emotionally, you can really move mountains, I'm finding. What else? Be a human. Honestly, I think entrepreneurs that are personable and are able to communicate effectively tend to move further, because whether you're inspiring somebody to buy, you know, your vegan snacks, or purchase a license to the mentor method, or, you know, buy whatever it is that you're selling, you need to be able to communicate with them in a way that helps them trust you. And the only way that you're going to get people to start trusting you is if you trust yourself, because that translates into the way that you communicate, your choices, your body language, the way that you conduct yourself after those interactions. And I've seen such a difference just working on that self-trust for the last, you know, decade, and being able to translate that into recruiting the team and recruiting customers.
What about the critical thinking and the level of analysis of
Necessary.
numbers? Because
It depends on
I mean, I have there are students that love certain classes because they don't have to see numbers. For example, there are people that are not good with numbers because they just don't like numbers. But I in hearing from that, you need to present numbers, financial statements, return on investment analysis, and all of that.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
You have to do it, right? So whether you like it or not, tough break, you're a CEO, you're an entrepreneur, you're building a business, and numbers matter. So if you don't like it, find somebody who does, but you still need to understand it regardless.
So finance is important.
Finance,
Marketing is important.
mental well-being, resiliency,
Resilience.
being married to the problem more than the solution, because it's going to change over time.
Being married, I never heard that, but I think it's a very good one. Being married to the problem, to the need of the market, not to the solution. And I think this is a big mistake that a lot of people do. They get married to the solution. They get in love. They get in love with a baby, with the product. And yes, you feel proud of your baby, but it's to get married to the problem, to understand that problem very well. So you need to have a good level of analysis, a good critical thinking. You have to be honest, transparent, as you mentioned. What about what is it that you look at the person that look for a job in a company like yours?
Business values alignment. As I mentioned, our values are trust, honesty, communication, and efficiency. So that's the first thing I screen for, is having that values alignment without it being forced. We do technical reviews for everybody on the team, making sure that they can do what they say they're going to do as well. We bring in our investors, we bring in advisors, people that I trust that are experts in whatever role we're filling, to make sure that we're vetting them and that we're asking the right questions, and we get their feedback as well. Wow. Coachability, learning mindset, the ability to adapt, because, you know, Monday, our team meeting, we're going after one thing, and then by Tuesday at 5 p.m., we're like, oh, wait, something else, right? That happens in business world. So the ability to be adaptable is also big. It looks like Teresa Wynn has a question as well. She says, is it possible to scale your business model down? Yes. As students, we lack capital and connections. Yep. But like you said, we can develop skills. How can a student start into building a business? Teresa, great question. You know, you don't need to have a lot of money to do it. I would say, customer research. You can spend very little money on doing that and really identifying potential customers through asking them questions, right? Making sure that you're really solving a problem for them. Getting, business modeling coaching, working with both Rohan and Hector to, get the resources you need. You're at a very incredible school, right? Huston-Tillotson is remarkable. Dr. Burnett is, a godsend. And you have a unique opportunity, especially in college as a student, to leverage that learning mindset that's just all you're responsible for having as a college student, to start moving the needle on your business as it relates to customer discovery. You can even get some unofficial low-level advisors to start helping you formulate your business model. There are student pitch competitions, 3-Day Startup, a great nonprofit. They have a chapter here, Founders Institute, run by Elisa Sepulveda, Martin Martinez, wonderful individuals that really focus on idea stage companies. That's another great resource available to you. So I would say just start there, right? Customer discovery, start thinking about where you want to go, start building your first bench of advisors and people that you get advice from, and then they can help you start putting the plan in place for what's feasible and start thinking about how much money you'll actually need to get up and running.
Good advices for Teresa. Thank you for the question, Teresa.
Yes.
Well, and thank you for the answer, Janice. I don't know. I think it's I'm done with my questions, but the last question I have is the last. But you've been talking about it. The last advices and
Sure.
tips. Do you think that everyone can be an entrepreneur, or is a special profile that you need to have to be an entrepreneur?
That's hard for me to answer because I didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur until the idea of the mentor method came to me. So even though I had studied entrepreneurship and strategic management, I was thinking about it more as an intrapreneur. Meaning
Interesting.
I would use that innovation and business mindset to help me grow my career and get promoted faster within my career to creative director. That's where I was headed, to creative director faster, because I understood this business side and the ability to visualize those business concepts seamlessly. So I considered myself an entrepreneur. I was always coming up with new ideas for the businesses I worked for outside of graphic design. I did it with Deloitte for a year as an entrepreneur in residence. So there is room to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You don't always need to be a business owner to have that, though. I think people think that until you start a business, you're not an entrepreneur, but that's not the case, right? There are a lot of qualities that entrepreneurs have with their resilience, problem solving, etc., that you see every day. So I don't think that it's something exclusive to entrepreneurs. I think the difference is there are people that see a problem and they want to take it to market and solve other people's problems, and there are those that prefer solving problems at more of a micro level within their company or their community or whatever it is. And I think you need both. You need people on the front lines helping their communities. You need those big idea people, and together we're able to make Austin an even better city.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Janice. I don't know, Dr. Thompson, anyone else that wants to submit a question? I think I learned a lot personally, and I've been in the entrepreneurship world for many years, and I never stop learning. I think that's another important thing. Always try to learn from everybody. You never stop learning. Don't stop there and say, oh, I built a company, I don't need to learn from anybody else. If you want to be in this business of entrepreneurship, you have to keep learning and creating network and preparing yourself, etc. So thank you very much, Janice, for being with us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for connecting. This is the last, but not least, is Entrepreneurship Series that we have this semester. I think we have had very good people with experience and Janice is not an exception. I really appreciate Janice sharing with the people at HT your knowledge, your experience. I really appreciate it. Dr. Thompson, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on this.
Well, I just want to say thank you again to Janice on behalf of our president, who she was supposed to be here to greet you because I know she has worked with you, but she couldn't be here. She sent her regrets, but she wants you to know that she was thinking about you and that she appreciates you being here and that she will reach out to you personally. So thank you very much. You've always been a great friend to HT, a great friend to all of us here. And I can't wait to advance our conversations on mentorship here at HT and lots of other topics that I think that we can discuss. So I appreciate you very much. I appreciate the audience who were here with us, not just today, but all 3 sessions. I hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to doing this again next year. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night, Janice. Good night, everyone. Thank you.